Welcome to Scoop World Order. Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys are having a great day. One of our superstars that we're projecting the class releases top 4 today, Chip Kelly, and his masterful impact he's had on Ohio State's program. We're going to analyze that. The boys are back in town. Workouts are getting cranked up by Mickey Marotti. So this is the time of the year. A lot of these guys are going to be running their butts off in the summer. It's a very tough time of year. A time of the year that, frankly, the fan base doesn't see, but it is. This is where the teams are made, man, in the heat of the summer. In Ohio, running a lot of wind sprints. So Mickey's going to turn up on these guys, and I'm really excited to get some more reports on that. We're also going to break down a running back I think you guys are really going to like. Looks like he's projected into the class. Great player. We got his tape, so we're all going to be ready to go. And we're going to take your questions, as always, through our Pay It Forward program. Again, if you guys would like to ask a question with Pay It Forward, the money goes into our Pay It Forward program. The Super Chats have been outstanding. Again, they're a huge part of our program. We thank you guys because you guys always bring fantastic questions, different perspectives, and it always adds a lot of spice to our show. So thank you guys for all of that. Again, I compliment you guys for being so knowledgeable as a fan base and really helping keeping the show number one in the country like it is currently. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys tuning in each and every night at 7 o'clock. A lot of great sports going on this whole week. The Cavs are up against tomorrow down in Boston. Some good hockey on tonight, so we're going to get in for about an hour tonight before we go off into that and watch a little bit of sports. But again, we appreciate you guys. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with, as always. And we will get this thing cracking. Nevada, lot to talk about. Your boy Denard Robinson got fired today, or resigned something. He's no longer part of Michigan's program. He is a Michigan legend. Literally on the cover of the last NCAA football game. He is now gone. Chip Kelly has been masterful helping Ryan tune this offense up and get it to be even more efficient than it has been. Vernell Brown released his top 4. No surprises there. Where would you like to start tonight?
Well, we could start on none of those topics and go to Isaiah West, and we could talk about him if you want to. We could running back that is a imminent commitment to Ohio State. Former Kentucky commit has now decommitted from the Wildcats and is going to be a Buckeye. And with Isaiah West, if you look at him, every day is leg day with Mr. West because he's got those Kirk Barton legs on him for sure. Because I mean, it's pretty impressive, man. I love those backs with those great bases down there. He has certainly got it in abundance, strength and power. Ohio State likes this guy a lot. This class is going to be a 3-back class. So you say, well, who are these 3 backs that are going to be in the class? It's going to be Mr. West. It's going to be Jordan Davison, and it's going to be Bo Jackson. Those are going to be the 3 backs in this class. You say 3 running backs, Nevada, you're crazy. How can you take 3 running backs? That's the plan. That's what's been communicated to all the kids. That's what's going to happen. But the first domino to fall is going to be Isaiah West, and I think it could be any moment.
Yeah, when you live in portal world, I mean, 3 running backs is not as crazy as it used to be. Again, there are the stems. He is a brute of a running back. Here he is. He is coming to Ohio State, 4-star running back. Very impressive kid. This is going to be interesting with Bo Jackson, Jordan Davison, potentially all in the fold. So, kid from St. Joe's in Philly. So this is going to be a very interesting haul. Again, we flipped him from Kentucky. The decision is imminent. This is like schemantics. When these kids decommit from school like Kentucky, it's in general, when Ohio State's on you and you're committed to Kentucky, they're going to say, hey, if we offer you, you got to take your leave or else we're moving on. And this kid, he bulleted the Kentucky Wildcats, who have been paying through the nose for players. So I'm sure that this kid's going to get a very nice NIL deal from us as well. Talented kid, though. I really like his tape. I'm going to get that up in a second. Nevada, are you into taking a 3 running back class? Do you think that is productive, or do you feel like it ends up like a 2 quarterback class where generally one will transfer out? And it's just kind of like it turns into like the Hunger Games where one guy might make it, maybe 2 at most if some of the upperclassmen transfer. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think my answer would be different before the expanded playoff. With the expanded playoff, I just think the utter brutality of these seasons that are kind of these 16, 17 game seasons is going to mean you're going to be using a lot of running backs. And I don't think it's crazy at all to think that you're going to be going three deep regularly in your running back rotations. And I'm sure you'll probably even go four deep and five deep. So I think this is the new normal, given the wear and tear that backs have to go through, given the amount of contact. I mean, it's a position where every time you carry the ball, you're tackled to the ground with three guys, 300 pounds laying on top of you, which is just a brutal position. I can't imagine how anybody even survives it, but he does. So hey, we've had we've had luck with our last. Marvin Harrison was St. Joe's kid, wasn't he? And I mean, Cal
Yep,
McCord was too. So that kind of
yep.
yeah, so that kind of cuts it 50-50. But no, I'm excited about him. Ohio State's excited about him. I think these classes, you're going to see this in the future. I don't think it's going to be, the days of just taking one running back or taking zero running backs, which was the Tony Alford special.
Oh my
I think
God.
those days are gone. So no, I'm excited about him. I know Ohio State's excited about him, and I think he's going to be a member of a great running back class that's coming to Ohio State. All the credit in the world goes to Coach Locke and the guys on the offensive side, because they're reloading. They're reloading a room that needs to be reloaded, and this is a really good get for them.
Yeah, I think that this kid's going to be, he's special. He's got a lot of bursts. Again, the St. Joe's things are, I mean, Marvin Harrison was not a very heralded kid when we got him. He was like the third receiver in the class from a ranking perspective, which shows it was weird. I remember when we got Marvin, I talked to Anthony Gonzalez about him, and I was like, so this guy's bigger than his dad. Gonzo played with Marvin Harrison Sr., the guy who's in the Hall of Fame, who was one of the greatest route runners in NFL history. I was like, why is his son so lowly rated? Like, does he run like a 4.8 40? Because he was much bigger. I was like, I'm sure that technically, from a technical route running perspective, he's going to be ridiculous because of who his dad is. I'm sure he's gonna have a work ethic, because again, like Marvin and Marvin was Peyton Manning's favorite player, him and Edgerrin. So because those guys were tireless, crazy workers, attention to detail. If you're Marvin, if you're Peyton's number one receiver throughout his career and the most prolific duo in NFL history between a quarterback and receiver, like, you've got to be a perfectionist. So when Marvin Harrison Jr. came on board, and then all of a sudden, like, oh wow, he's really good. Oh wow, he works really hard. Oh, he gets done with a game, and then he's on the jugs machine for 7 hours afterwards. Like, I was like, oh, sounds like his old man. Sounds like how he was with the Colts and whatever. And he had a legendary work ethic. So I think this guy could be kind of the same guy. And again, you see the burst, you see the breakaway. This is a good league too. This isn't a BS league in Philly. This is a real league. So these guys play some real teams, and the guy's a horse. So again, I think that this is a guy that he'll get bumped up once he commits as a Buckeye. I'm sure he'll surge up the rankings like they always do. But I like everything about this kid. Again, we got the tape rolling right now. He a burst type of kid. Again, seeing him catch the ball is always great for this offense. I think that's something that Chip Kelly is going to do. Is we're going to have our guys catch the ball a little bit more than they have in the past out of the backfield. Like, that'll be huge for what we're trying to do. Again, you see a lot of Chip's concepts in here with the vertical sweep right there. It's always fun when you see high school teams running the same plays at Ohio State, like literally the identical same plays. There you saw him pass protecting. Here you see him getting to the edge. I just see the similarities, and I see the symmetry and how he'll fit into our offense. And again, this is a good gift for Coach Locke. I know we lived in a crazy world where we actually had a running backs coach that was employed by Ohio State University not get a running back in an entire class, and that's pure insanity. It's borderline criminal. But I really like everything this guy does. He's a horse. Here he is brutalizing his way into the end zone. So yeah, I like all of his tools. This is not this is a high power 5 kid. And again, this tape's great because there you see him blocking the edge, so he's unselfish. Like I said, I love everything about this kid. We want to start up with this before we got into Vernell Brown. But yeah, Nevada, this guy's got big potential, and I'm a big fan of in a 17 game season having 2 or 3 running backs, because as we saw last year, the year before, I mean, we get down to Chip train him, and for some reason we don't play Dallin Hayden, we're playing Mayan. Like, we're down to the nitty gritty when it comes to the Michigan game because everyone else got hurt. So I think you got to have a lot of depth in that room, and plus kids will get disgruntled. Kids will transfer. You gotta load up as best you can. So, but Nevada, after you've watched some of his film, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's a kid that can help us. And, as you said, I mean, think about the recent past where we were down to Xavier Johnson. So we're playing, Dallin Hayden, with when he was burning his red shirt or whatever the heck that was all about. Um, and that was before the expanded playoff. So what's going to happen with an expanded playoff and an expanded Ohio State running game? Because the running game now is about to get cranked up, unlike it's been cranked up during the Ryan Day era. Ryan Day is a pass first guy. We all know that. I would submit that Ryan has never fully understood how to activate the passing game via the running game. And that's not a diss on him. I mean, he's clearly a genius. But if you ask where his genius lies, I'd say it's in the passing game. It's in the passing game and his passing attack. And now with Chip Kelly, you've got a guy that led the nation in rushing at UCLA. With talent, nowhere near what he's got at Ohio State. He's going to run the football. So having running backs like this, you're just going to need as many as you possibly can. Next year, the running back room almost completely clears out. So bringing in 3, I think, makes a lot of sense. And this is a guy that could play and could play early and is probably going to have to play early the way that we're going to go through running backs.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, running back's a great position because you can play that the first day you get there. If you're good and you've got talent, you can be like Beanie. I mean, Beanie was out there, ran over, about killed Brandon Mitchell the first time we had a contact drill. I mean, literally killed Brandon. I thought Brandon was going to be laying there dying. But hey, if you got the ability, you can get out and get rolling. Other big news, one of my favorite players in the entire country, Vernell Brown, Jr., or the third, excuse me, is now officially has us in the Final Four with the 3 Florida schools, which is I don't say it's insanity, but it does scream this is going to be a big time NIL play. So Vernell is a kid that I think loves Ohio State. I think he can easily be ours. I think I think we get both him and Jamie French. But this kid is his dad played at Florida. He's gonna take 700 visits from now till December because again these guys kind of in an unscrupulous manner. These guys all get paid to go to Florida State and go to Gainesville. Like I mean, they're not going to Hollywood or Pismo Beach. These guys are going to like Tallahassee and Gainesville over and over again to line their pockets because again these guys have to. They show up, they go scratch, and that's why like JJ went to Tallahassee like 700 times last year. So I mean, he ended up a Buckeye, but it wasn't without a fight. And Vernell will be a fist fight, as will Jamie French. But I feel great about Vernell. I feel great about Jamie. I think if those guys want to be serious about their development, they know where to go. Florida State put Keon Coleman in the league, who's obviously fantastic. He was against Marvin. Florida is a dumpster fire in terms of development. If their head coach is even going to be there in a year. Miami, same way. Empty stadium, no skill development whatsoever. So I think this is going to be Ohio State, and I would say Florida because of the dad's alma mater, but I think Ohio State is the betting favorite here. Nevada, your thoughts on our boy Vernell Brown? Toss his tape on too.
Yeah, Vernell Brown, obviously, terrific, top notch wide receiving talent. Brian Hartline target, and generally betting against Brian Hartline when he targets a guy, when he wants a guy, when he's a desire to recruit for Ohio State, seems like kind of a fool's errand. And people I talked to at Ohio State believe he's a Buckeye. They believe it's just a matter of time. When I saw the other 3 schools being the Florida schools, you certainly think NIL, but I also kind of got the impression that they're just not going to be serious threats for him when Ohio State really wants them, whereas other schools might be, and there might be something else, kind of afoot. I think when Brian Hartline's going to focus on a guy at the wide receiver position, I'm not saying it's a wrap, but it's a super chalky pick to pick Ohio State, and I'm certainly picking the Buckeyes to prevail on this one, and I think that's another one that could happen sooner than later.
And Vernell, obviously, he's a South Florida Express kid. We have great ties to South Florida Express. They do a fantastic job. Again, we've gotten Carnell Tate, we've gotten Brandon Ennis, we've gotten JJ Smith. I think we're going to get Vernell, and I think we're going to get Jamie French. But this is a kid that has been described as electric. dare I say, Devin Hester. You see him returning a punt here, but that's the type of guy that this guy is. When he gets the ball, it is it's a bad deal. This is a guy that if I was running the show, he'd be my day one punt returner and kick returner. Even though no kickoffs don't really exist anymore, and I know that we love to fair catch every single punt now. But this is a guy that when you get him the ball in space, it is very, very great things happen. Again, you see him because he's the number one receiver on his team, so obviously he's going to be stretching the field and doing what number one receivers do. But for me, he'd be a slot guy, inside guy, gadget guy. Like Chip Kelly could use this guy like D'Anthony Thomas, and it would be absolutely insane because we've got a lot of body types, we've got a lot of skill, we have the deepest receiver room in the country again, but we don't have a guy like this. This is a different cat. Because we had a great question the other day, and I actually think I said Vernell, where one of the Buckeye Scoop family members asked super chat, and they said, "Who's the guy who's a running back / wide receiver hybrid? What body type? Who's that guy on this roster?" And again, I mentioned Xavier Johnson. Obviously, this kid's a million times more athletic than Xavier was. This guy's the perfect fit for what Chip did in his absolute peak when he had Ken John Bulmer. And he had D'Anthony Thomas and like those types of guys where he could get him the ball about 80 different ways. And this kid would be devastating in Chip's offense. And this is a kid that you'd have to give 5 to 7 touches at least a game. Just get the ball in his hands and let the electricity fly. He's not Ted because he's not, no one's as fast as Ted was. But this kid's the kind of guy where you want to do reverses, you want to do jet sweeps, you want to just get him the ball on the edge in space. And you have to understand, not every wide receiver is great at running a jet sweep. Emeka is actually really good at it, but this kid's much quicker than Emeka is in space. I think Vernell would be devastating. And you see him as a kick returner. We haven't had like a major weapon as a kick returner since Emeka in the Rose Bowl. And again, I don't know if it's because we instruct these guys to fair catch everything, but to get a guy that could be a weapon on punt returns again would be, I think, a huge add for what we do because nothing takes the air out of an away stadium than when we run a kickback or electrifies the horseshoe like when we run a kickback or when we go to the house like this kid can do. So again, I love Vernell's game. I think he's got different layers that we don't have. And again, we've got guys that can, we've got JJ and Brandon Tate and Ennis and some really dynamic players, but this guy's a whole different element. And it's something that we don't have, which makes him even more intriguing. For what we're trying to do with Chip Kelly. Nevada, on the topic of Chip Kelly on BuckeyeScoop.com, we got a little bit of insight on what is going on with the passing game. Obviously, Chip he's been brought in basically to revamp the entire running game, but he's got a lot of concepts he loves from his passing game playbook. He's calling the plays now, so there is some install. They've reworked a lot of verbiage in the playbook. There's a lot of stuff that has changed. He cannot do as much of the hyperdrive stuff that he used to do because of the way the game has changed with how officials kind of control the flow of the game as opposed to previously it used to be more the coaches controlling it. But the officials and the conference is kind of caught up to that. So you can't go as fast as Chip did in his heyday. What are some of the things that you've heard, Nevada, that you wrote about on BuckeyeScoop.com about the passing game, what he's trying to accentuate as he's now taking the reins of this offense?
Well, I had a great nugget. I had a chance to talk to the first wise man, who's one of the people that's known Chip longer than anybody. And, I won't bury the whole nugget in here, but there was a couple of things I thought were really interesting. And one was that, Ryan Day really had designed the passing games and his passing game concepts based upon getting guys open. And Chip's, there a lot of stuff that they do isn't necessarily designed. It doesn't have to get the guy open. It's just designed to get the guy in one-on-one coverage. And I thought that was a really interesting development. Chip's thing, it's a little higher risk, higher reward where they trust guys to kind of box out like in basketball. And, Ryan used to admonish the guys, look, if they're not open, don't throw it. And with Chip, it's kind of like if they're covered, the more covered you are, the lower you throw the ball. And I thought that was, again, an interesting takeaway. It's like, if you're covered, just throw it low. If they're not covered, throw it high. And, it's just interesting to see how Chip Kelly and Ryan Day are very different in terms of their utilization of for verticals, the tight end, the running back, and passing concepts. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be very different as you mentioned. I mean, the running game we know is going to be completely different, but the passing game is going to be predicated off of every play is going to present a running back run option, a quarterback run option, and a viable throwing threat. And when you do that to defenses, man, you just stress them so much when they just don't know which one's going to come. And if they're not respecting one, if they see it up there in the box that you're not respecting the quarterback run, you're not respecting the throw, they're going to immediately attack that, go after that, and punish you until you do. And Chip's a master at this. He's a master at using the run to set up the pass. And I think the Ohio State offense is going to be a symphony this year, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Chip, and something that Urban was always very delicate with his words when he said, if we have with this concept, if our receiver doesn't get open, then fire the wide receiver coach because he's not bringing in good enough players. But with Chip, I think that he wants to force a trust between the quarterback and the receivers, and I think that that's something that'll be beneficial because there has to be a trust there. I mean, and I think that he's going to loosen up the reins a little bit now that he's running the quarterback show. He won't be quite as it's not being hard, but you got to have some trust in the wide receivers. And the wide receivers, a lot of times, they should catch a blame. Like sometimes when a quarterback makes a throw and it gets intercepted, like there's a large part of that time where it's the receiver's fault. It's not the quarterback's fault because maybe he quit on a route. Again, Marvin against Michigan last year was as egregious as I've ever seen, where he ran the laziest slant I've ever seen, and like Will Johnson picked it, and Kyle shouldn't have thrown it, but it was still like, I'm like, good God, like you can't just kind of coast in there and caress your way through a slant. Like you had to go run that slant, and Marvin didn't do it, and Will Johnson picked it. And that was really the play of the game to me because it was a stalemate up until we basically gave him a pick six, and Will Johnson got caught on the two. So, but I like what Chip's doing. I like that the variety of that between the run pass option, running the quarterback, varying the throws and the route concepts. I think this offense can be much more difficult to defend because again, eventually, it's like I used to say last year with the read option stuff. When you just fake the read, you make it look like a read option, like the quarterback is actually running a read option, but he doesn't actually ever pull the ball. Teams stop. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Eventually, teams stop honoring it, and they just crash down, and they kill the running back every time. And they kept doing that to us. And I was like, eventually, we had to start pulling the ball, which is where the quarterback literally takes the ball out of the stomach of the running back on the read option, and he goes around the edge. And we did it. And when we did it, like I think teams about panicked because they never saw us do it. They were so scared of us doing it, and defensive coordinators just stopped honoring what we were doing. So I'm really excited about what Chip is going to do. Nevada, we had a few questions about Chip and his activity on the recruiting scene. How rejuvenated is he now that he gets to coach football? He doesn't have to worry about NIL, and he actually gets to recruit with a very rich NIL program, which he did not have at UCLA.
He's a different guy. He's just a completely different guy. I mean, he was dying at UCLA. He was dying. He hated it. Hated the athletic director, hated, the setup, hated being kind of a second fiddle to USC. Look, the Rose Bowl's great, but, it's not on campus. I mean, there's just so many things about being at UCLA that are just not optimal for a football coach. And, he's back to doing what he loves. I mean, he at his core is an offensive wizard and an offensive mastermind, and he gets to do that. He gets to cook it up in the lab all day and to do it with players at the highest level against competition at the highest level. And the people around him just say that he's just completely rejuvenated. This has kind of added 10 years to his coaching life. And I've mentioned this before, but when I first heard he was taking the job, beyond being ecstatic, I was immediately, in despair thinking about what's going to be like when he leaves. And they're like, look, he could be here for a while. I mean, he could be here for a lot longer than people think, because this is really the job that he was, set up to really excel at. And I hope he stays here for a very long time, because I think he's going to do some really special things.
Well, I think that you make a good point about being at a program that is really in a death spiral right now in UCLA. Which again, UCLA is beautiful. The cheerleaders are pretty. The stadium is gorgeous. Like it's got a lot of pizzazz from the olden days of Lou Alcindor and Bill Walton and obviously John Wooden and blah blah blah. But the football program has been bad for a long time. And for two, like the biggest thing for me is like if I'm Chip Kelly and I'm the head coach at UCLA, every single day, when he was in the old conference before these teams all moved to the Big Ten, I look up and I'm like, who do I have to compete against today on the recruiting grounds, which is mostly California, some Hawaii, some Washington State, maybe a little bit of Texas, maybe a little bit of, the other, Vegas, like some of the West Coast areas. And you look at, USC, obviously very, very strong NIL. They are the belle of the ball in Los Angeles. Caleb Williams made a fortune last year. If you're good and you play at SC, you're going to get paid. That's not the same as UCLA. And then the other two monsters are Oregon, who everyone knows has just a monstrous NIL budget, and they basically take who they want on the West Coast in terms of recruiting. And then two is Washington. And Washington, I know firsthand, has been offering crazy money to players. They offered their one basketball player $2 million. That got out like in the last couple of days, and one of the biggest known NIL deals. So, when you're UCLA and you're like digging in your couch cushions in the recruiting room looking for quarters to give to maybe a starting quarterback or starting running back, and then all these other guys have like serious cash, like it makes it very disheartening to be the head coach when you know that you're up against it. Because no matter what, at the end of the day, you have to go win games. And you don't get like a coupon on your win-loss record if you can say, well, those guys spent this much money on their roster and they spent that much in NIL. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you have to go win games. So if you win every game, lose every game, it's all square at the end of the day based on your budget. It's just like in Major League Baseball where like the Cleveland Indians have $40 million and the Yankees have $250 million in their payroll. Like you don't get like a bonus if you win with 40 million versus 250 million. Only one team wins the World Series at the end of the year, and it's usually one of the teams that has a huge payroll. So I think Chip's going to be excited to have NIL money to play with and to retain, not just get recruits, but to retain the roster, to keep guys from going to the NFL, to get guys in the transfer portal. I think it's a brave new world for Chip, and I think he's really excited about the way it's trending. And again, Ohio State did an incredible job in NIL thanks to the foundation this offseason in retaining that roster. So Learfield and the foundation really stepped up, and it's been really good for the Buckeyes. So we can dig into some super chats.
No, hold on. Before we get to the super chats, I want to apologize to Michigan football because I've been saying that the recruiting hasn't been great at Michigan football, and I've been kind of making fun of them. And then I see that they get a commitment from Baby Gronk, and that kind of turns everything around. And so I'd like to apologize to him because you get a talent like Baby Gronk, and I mean, what, three national championships minimum, maybe 4.
I don't know what to make of people that make their kids into caricatures when they're that young. I think that's like I don't want to say that that's like abusive parenting, but that's kind of how I feel. Because now that kid's got a target everywhere he goes, and every young kid that goes against him in every dumb 7-on-7 tournament is going to want to jack that kid up because his stupid dad made YouTube videos and TikTok videos and made the kid act like a troll. So those kids always flame out. They always end up sucking because they've got these helicopter dads that are trying to live vicariously through their kids. So I hope he goes to Michigan. That'd be the greatest thing ever because that'll tell me all about the quality of their recruits when they're taking a kid like Baby Gronk, who dominated 4th grade football or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I just think it's like, I'm like who are these parents? Like, I'm going to name my kid after a Hall of Fame kid and call him Baby Gronk and put him in all these videos. It's just like, at some point to me, it's child abuse, but that's me. And maybe it's whatever, but like, I'm not going to name my kid played goalie for one game and name him Baby Patrick Wall because it's stupid. But again, and the way these kids burn out of sports is insane because, like there's 6-year-olds I know that are in travel hockey, travel football, and travel soccer and travel baseball all summer. And I'm like, yeah, good luck. I'll see you guys when your kids are in the asylum in about 10 years, and you guys are like, why? I don't know why my kid's so sad and he's depressed. I'm like, well, probably because he never got to actually be a kid. You guys made him like go spend the weekend in Indiana at some 6-year-old stupid wiffle ball tournament or baseball tournament. When I'm like, you can't find kids in Columbus to play against. You got to like travel 3 hours, and it's just so stupid. But again, that's just me.
Now you're a gambler, not a professional gambler, but a recreational gambler. What would you set the odds of baby Gronk having a bad outcome at? What are the odds on that?
Odds of a bad outcome on baby Gronk?
Yes,
Ooh.
for baby Gronk.
Are you looking for like a money line, like a minus
Yeah, like
number?
what's the minus number on this?
I'm trying to find where's the Josh Green minus 1.5 3 pointers or whatever that was at. It'll be the same as that one. And like Josh Green will check into the game and casually drill a three like in the first 2 minutes of the game off the bench, the seventh man off the bench. Like so, it'll be something like that. I just again the problem like with when you do this to these kids before they hit puberty is like they might not grow anymore. It's kind of like when they do these basketball rankings for sixth graders and they say, oh, he's the best sixth grader in the country because he's already like 6 feet tall, and then he doesn't grow. He's a 6'5" sixth grader and he doesn't grow and he doesn't develop skills. So he goes from being like a center who's like dunking on kids as a sixth grader to like just a skillless, baseless husk by the time he's in 12th grade. So I don't know. It's just like I've seen this movie, and there's a lot of kids that are great in 8th grade because they already have like leg hair and they can grow mustaches because they've already hit puberty and they've got muscle tone. And then like there's but that's their peak. They're done after 8th grade. They're as fast as they're going to be, as strong as they're going to be, and then all of a sudden they get to the end of their high school year and they're like Division III recruits. People are like, man, that guy's going to be really good, and then you never hear from him again because he's playing at Heidelberg or whatever. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just being accurate because I've seen this movie before. I've seen the parents before, and it's just like, God bless. Like, you think at some point they'd learn their lesson. All right, let's get to some super chats. Gio did it. 42. Thank you for the 5. Somebody tell Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy to just shut up. Bring us stuff that supposedly happened with Chip Kelly 8+ years ago. Stop it. I know that like that's a great way to get some buzz because you have to understand when people are starting podcasts, they look for the cheap heat. What's the cheap heat? Well, Chip Kelly's at Ohio State. He traded me to Buffalo for Kiko Alonso, which at the time I thought was a great trade for Philly because not only could you trade and get Kiko Alonso, who at the time was like a Pro Bowl level linebacker. LaShawn McCoy wanted a crazy contract, and again, you should never give a running back a second contract. And for two, they figured out they could get DeMarco Murray, who was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year, which is like basically the offensive MVP, for a 1-year deal that was the same price. So you get a running back on a 1-year deal, and you get a Pro Bowl linebacker, all for the price of trading LaShawn McCoy. So I didn't think it was any of the dumb stuff they said about Chip. I thought it was a straight business. And again, it happens all the time. It's like when the Indianapolis Colts traded Marshall Faulk. They didn't give him a second contract. Obviously, Marshall Faulk ended up being a Hall of Famer with the Rams, won a Super Bowl. But that's kind of the anomaly. The Rams traded Jerome Bettis to the Steelers. The Colts also let Edgerrin James walk to the Cardinals. That one worked out well because when Edgerrin left, big time second deal with the Cardinals, had one good year, and then after that he was a Husk. He was done. So I think that's the Colts were kind of ahead of their time with the analytics, and I think Chip Kelly was an analytical guy when it came to and Howie Roseman and I know Chip and Howie Roseman were like oil and water by the time they were done in Philly, but I think that if you can trade a running back and you can get the kind of value like you can get in Kiko Alonso, who again was a great young linebacker who was an Oregon guy, so Chip obviously knew him. I'd do it 10 out of 10 times, especially when you can replace him with a guy who was better the year before in DeMarco Murray. Now, DeMarco Murray obviously didn't work out in Philly, so you can hyperanalyze that all you want, and you can always look back and say, "Oh, how could you?" But I thought it was stupid. But again, it's a great way to get people to watch your podcast is crap on some guy who's at Ohio State now. But Nevada, what are your thoughts on our boys Shady and Deshaun Jackson crapping on Chip Kelly?
Yeah, it just reeks of desperation. And you've got two guys that, formerly relevant, now completely, totally irrelevant. And if you're completely irrelevant in today, with social media, what do? Well, you try to punch up and hope that somebody above you notices you and punches down at you, and draw some attention to your podcast or whatever it is, whatever your social media vehicle is, and that's what these guys are doing. And I mean, I don't need to talk anymore about LaShawn McCoy and his legal issues and some other problems that he's had, but he's him and Deshaun. I couldn't imagine two less credible sources on any topic than those two clowns. So I take it with a very large grain of salt, and I think it's kind of humorous and kind of indicative of welcome to 2024. If you're like in a time machine and you got dropped in 2024, I fully expect this is what you'd first see and you're like, what the heck's going on? I'm like, yeah, this is what our world is like today.
Well, and I think that there's always some, there's always anger when something goes sideways. And again, Chip, his first year was incredible in the NFL. By year 3, bad, got ran out of town, fired, whatever. And that's what happens in the NFL. Like eventually guys kind of run their course, or things don't go the right way, things don't break the right way. Again, you look at Bill Belichick, who's widely regarded as the greatest football coach who's ever lived. By the end, man, I mean, he was up the creek, and there's a lot of people that didn't like him in Foxborough. His owner hated him, Robert Kraft. Brady didn't like him. Brady left and went to Tampa Bay. So I don't know. I think that it's just part of sports. I'm sure that there was times where Jordan didn't like Phil Jackson, and Shaquille O'Neal didn't like Phil Jackson, and Kobe didn't like Phil Jackson. But that's just part of being different. Like when you're different and you're great, you do things outside of the box. Like you're gonna have detractors, and that's just part of. It's the cost of living. Hey, look at Urban Meyer. Look how many former players either love Urban Meyer or absolutely hate Urban Meyer. So it's like when you're a strong personality, you want to do things different. You want to push people and make them better. If it doesn't work out from a win-loss perspective, then you open yourself up to some severe criticism. And again, do I think Chip cares? No. Why would you? Because when you sign up to be a football coach, like you're gonna have criticisms and whatever. And again, I heard a great line from Monica Day on a podcast where she talked about it. It's like, you're not always going to be everyone's favorite. There's some people that like, Three Musketeers, some people like Snickers, like whatever. So don't worry about what people think. And when you're a coach, like the one thing that I'll guarantee you, if you're a guy like Ryan Day or a guy like Chip Kelly, is like, if you're going to go down, if the ship's going to go down, like if you're going to get fired, you better make sure you get fired doing it your way. Don't try to be Andy Reid. Like Chip Kelly was replacing a legend, a Hall of Famer in Andy Reid. Don't try to be Andy Reid, because he was the guy that was there forever. Very successful, obviously won multiple Super Bowls with the Chiefs, but Chip's gonna do it his way. And again, that means you're gonna practice on Thursday or on Friday instead of Thursday. You're not gonna eat tacos anymore. I remember he went in there and he changed up the diet. They weren't feeding them junk food anymore. They weren't, they were having these wheatgrass smoothies and all this other crazy stuff. So, hey, that's what he believed in. He had sports science and whatever. So, it is what it is. But I'm excited that he's with us, and I think he's going to do an insane job running our offense.
Now, wait a second. I want to ask a question based upon something you just said. Does anybody really like Three Musketeers? Does anybody really like? Is that anybody's favorite candy bar? Is that even possible?
I think Three Musketeers is good. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, I don't think it could possibly be your favorite. I think it's like that fourth candy bar that you get when there's no Snickers or Zagnut or Almond Joy or something else like that, right? And it's the one that's left over.
It's like Mr. Goodbar. When you get the little mini Reese thing, it's got the dark chocolate crackle, and then Mr. Goodbar. Everybody just throws the Mr. Goodbars in the trash because they're trash. It's kind of like one of those.
Mr. Good. I like Crackle and I like Mr. Goodbar and stuff, but I do not like Three Musketeers. That's just too much nugget in there. It's not even. I'm not even sure what that is. It's I don't. Does anybody like Three Musketeers? Say that in the chat.
In the chat, we got to know if you guys like Three Musketeers. I like Three Musketeers,
but I like Butterfinger. I like Butterfingers a lot. Those are really good. They make a mess when you eat those Butterfingers. They're spraying that Butterfinger stuff all over when you bite into them.
Yeah, I can see that. The thing about Three Musketeers is you can't make it into a Blizzard or a Culver's Concrete, which I need to go try one of those eventually.
That's true.
Life,
that's true.
So that shows you how low it is on the food on the candy bar totem pole. All right, D Sunny, thank you for the 10. The next phase of the NBA plays tonight at 10:30 Eastern. The game is in Denver, but that's a late start time for us. Do networks always understand what they're doing with the way they schedule sports? Yeah, they already know Nikola Jokic is the face of the NBA. He is a big, fat Serbian dude, and I'm sure that that's who you're talking about, not Anthony Edwards. Because I watched the Joker the other night, man. That boy's nasty. He's really good. I know you're talking about Anthony Edwards, but I think that it just when you've got two games, when you got Knicks Pacers, like you got to put that as the East Coast time. Then you've got a game that's in Mountain time. You got to put that as the late game, and I think the NHL has to deal with the same thing. Like they've got Edmonton playing Vancouver tonight. That's obviously the late game. The early game is Florida, Boston. So I think that you're kind of at the mercy of who's playing. And when you've got the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, that's why they alternate. They put one conference on one day and one on the other day, and the Eastern Conference teams go first, and the Western Conference teams go second. And I mean, I'm good with it. I mean, I'm going to watch all of it. This is the best time of the year for me because I love watching the playoffs. I don't get sad, but it does suck when it's all over, and then also you have nothing but boring baseball. But yeah, I'm excited, D. Sunny, that I agree with you that Nikola Jokic is the face of the NBA. He might be the best center of all time. He's getting close to that because he's got 3 straight MVPs, and that dude he's the best passing center in the history of basketball. There's nobody like that guy. So, Nevada, your thoughts? D. Sunny says the next face of the NBA plays tonight at 10:30 Eastern, which means I'm gonna have to have a little coffee to stay up. The game's in Denver. It's always a late start time for us. Do networks always understand what they're doing with the way they schedule sports?
Well, I mean, get ready for a Big Ten game, Big Ten night game starting
Big
that
Ten
late.
after dark, baby. I can't wait.
Big Ten after. I mean, that's going to be completely different, man. It's like, but you're a proponent. You like the noon game, the sleepy game, kind of the sleepy Kirk Barton game, where everybody just kind of stumbles in there and they play at noon. It's all quiet and everything else like that. So I know you don't like those night games when people get all lubed up and there's going to be a lot of excitement. But yeah, as a Big Ten fan, you better get ready to change your clock because it's not just going to be the NBA that's playing at 10:30 at night. It's going to be the Big Ten, and Big Ten football is going to be on from noon till midnight, and maybe even later than that. So you better get your rest, eat your Wheaties, drink your Greenway shakes or whatever you need to do to stay up. But Big Ten football is going to be a 12-hour coast-to-coast type of event from now on.
I mean, the biggest reason I like the noon games is because I want to make sure that when you got these old timers going to the games, you got Edith going to the game, and you got to make sure she can get to Golden Corral before 4 o'clock because then you can tab it.
Bob Evans.
It's $9 for dinner before 4:30. After 4:30, it goes up to like $14.99, and you have to pay for a drink.
Oh, wow.
So you got to make sure she can roll. The face of the NBA is the Joker. Is so. I mean, Rudy Gobert somehow is the defensive player of the year, man, and Joker killed him. And again, the weird thing about this series is that the road team has won every game, and they've crushed the home team every game. So again, this is a weird series, but it's been a great series because I thought A&M Edwards was going to run these guys out of the gym after the first 2 games, and then they went to Minnesota, and they were a different team because the bigs let these guys down in a major way. It was almost painful to watch Rudy Gobert versus Jokic because Jokic ate him alive. Jim Jackson, what is up? Our resident Florida State Seminole. How are you, my friend? Thank you for the 5. Bark, what is the latest on Jamie French, Nevada OH?
I
think Jamie French is very, 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 very much in the picture with Ohio State. I would say that Ohio State is in the lead for Jamie French. I think that there's going to be a lot of posturing going forward. Again, this is South Florida. This is how they roll. He's going to go visit Florida State 500 times, Texas 500 times, Florida 500 times. I mean, that's just how it is. It was like with JJ. Like JJ went to Tallahassee like 75 times last year. And I'm like, what could you possibly be wanting to see in Tallahassee that many times other than the pretty girls? Like, that's it. But again, it's a negotiation ploy. A lot of these schools are paying these kids to go on visits. Hint, hint, not legal. But hey, if you want to pay my kid to go to a school a bunch of times and it covers my gas and we get a little bit on top of it, great, let's ride. So Jamie's going to be on the tour. He's going to go visit Texas. He's going to go visit Florida State, Florida. us, Auburn, LC, like all the usual suspects. He's going to be visiting all of them. And again, this is the one time in these guys' lives where they are the belle of the ball. Because as soon as you commit and you actually go somewhere, they don't treat you like that ever again. So, I mean, Jamie and some of these kids, they like to soak it up. And again, in the NIL era where you're negotiating, hey, let's feign interest. Because I think that if you act like Texas is in it and Florida State's in it and all these other schools are in it, great. Because then Ohio State's going to come correct with the checkbook. So it's no different than being a free agent in the NFL. These guys want to go on visits. They want to see what's the best fit for them and their family. And I get it. And Jamie's the kind of kid that he's going to get paid to play. He's a great player. He's Garrett Wilson 2.0. I think he's going to be great at Ohio State. And again, I think these SFE kids have seen what's happened in that receiver room with Brian Hartline. They've seen Emeka. They've seen Jackson Smith and Jigba. They've seen Marvin. And now they see what's happening with JJ and Carnell and Ennis. I mean, there's going to be times next year, when Emeka's taking a drink of Gatorade where the 3 starting wide receivers are all going to be South Florida Express kids. So when you're an SFE kid like Jamie French and Vernell Brown the third, I don't know why you'd ever want to do anything other than try to emulate and go down that exact same path that's already been blazed by the kids that played at SFE before you. So I really like where we're at with Jamie French. I'm not worried at all about Jamie French. And I think he's going to be a Buckeye, but it's my opinion. And again, things can change because recruiting is absolutely insane right now. But again, with Brian Hartline, with Ohio State, with Chip Kelly and Randy's offense, with the court, especially with our quarterback, with Tavian St. Clair, like that's crazy. So I mean, you got that quarterback who's probably the best quarterback in the country into this offense. I don't know how you don't come here. This is my opinion. Nevada, Jim Jackson, who again I appreciate you, my man. Says, Burke, what is the latest on Jamie French? Nevada, do you have anything to add to that?
No, Ohio State thinks they're getting him, so that's good enough for me. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of reasons for a wide receiver to pick Ohio State. Julian Saint, Tavian St. Clair, the history of Ohio State success putting guys in the league. I'll issue the one caveat: as long as Brian Hartline is still at Ohio State, as long as Brian Hartline is still at Ohio State, which we're not anticipating any movement on that. But as long as he's still at Ohio State, then I think Jamie French will be a Buckeye.
All right. So this is good. Appreciate you, John. Thank you for the 10. Kirk, can you give us a definition for schemantics, which is semantics? But I actually looked that up, and it's actually in Urban Dictionary. So here we go. So schemantic is a cross between the words semantic and schemantic, and it is a noun used for the study of meaning. And the second form is the study of linguistic development by classifying and examining changes in meaning and form. Also called significance. I don't know what any of that is, but there you go. In general, semantics. So there. I felt like I'm at spelling bee right now. That's great. Language of origin, English. Let's ride. So yeah, there's the definition: study of meaning. So yeah, it's like when we talk about the semantics or schemantics or schematic or whatever we want to say about like NIL. That is let's go. Go ahead, Nevada. Yeah, I know you're dying to add something that I just read an Urban Dictionary definition on air.
I'm just telling you guys. Like, fun fact: Kirk Barton was one of the people that won the spelling bee on ESPN in 2004, and that was when he was a youngster there. I think he was 20 years old at the time or something like that, and he beat some little kid from India or something like that in the spelling bee, and I believe that the winning word was schemantic or something like that, and he spelled it. So it's all there. It's all there on the part of the ESPN archive. You guys can see it. Google that. Barton spelling bee.
Those kids are serious now on that thing, man. I mean, I don't know if those kids are ever allowed to go outside. They get home from school, man, and it's like their dad hands them a dictionary and locks them in the bedroom and says, all right, daughter or son. Because they have like a dynasty where it's just like they read every single thing in this dictionary until you go to bed. Okay, here you go. And do it every single day until we do the Scripps National Spelling Bee or whatever. So God bless them. But, for my kid, there's this thing called an iPhone with autocorrect. And it's funny, my kid, he literally, he'll grab his iPad and say, he'll say the magic, Apple word, and like the little voice will pop on and say, "How do you spell this?" And it'll spell it. So again, like winning the spelling bee is great, but it's even better to go out and touch grass and be able to run around outside and stuff. Donald and Karen at Rospec, thank you for the 5, and thank you for being an ultra member. As always, appreciate you guys being on here each and every night. Hope you guys are doing great. What do you say to a Michigan grad in a 3-piece suit? Will the defendant please rise? Ooh, I like that. That's very good. Nevada OH.
I
3-piece suit. Man, I don't even know if I've ever worn. I mean, I think I wore one on my wedding. I always leave the vest out because the vest isn't going to do nothing for me. But yeah, that is funny. Nevada, any thoughts on your boy Denard Robinson getting fired? He went from the cover of the last NCAA video game to getting whacked by a school. It's been a weird. I mean, the offseason has been exceptionally weird for Michigan, but they can Mike Hart, because Mike Hart, I mean, you don't just leave a job and not to go to another job in college football. They can the D-line coach, and then they just can Denard Robinson. Your thoughts on the wildness that is Ann Arbor, Michigan in the offseason?
Well, they had to do it. I mean, Sherrod Moore had no choice. When they just kept, every like 2 weeks they'd have some sort of scandal. You're drunk driving at 3 a.m. The Denard says, "Hey, I'll see your one and I'll raise it." But again, on the positive side of the ledger, they got baby Gronk. So they got baby Gronk. They lost all their staff. They lost Jim Harbaugh. They lost their strength and conditioning coach. They lost Jesse Minter. But they got baby Gronk. So I mean, all in all, that's a win for Michigan, I think. And Denard, I mean, Denard's just dumb. I mean, after you've had all these problems, like, just get an Uber, get a Lyft. There is no reason anybody who drives drunk, and I'm telling you, I don't care who you are under any circumstance, if you drive drunk, you're a dummy. I tell it to everybody. I tell it to all my kids. I tell it to my friends, my coworkers. There's no reason for it. When I was a kid, I can understand it because it wasn't easy to get a cab. I mean, like when you're out there in Redlands, California, out near some orange grove drinking with some girls, like you're not going to call some cab and have them come pick you up or something like that. So you jump in the Chevy Monza and you try to navigate your way home or something like that. But today with like geo tracking and Uber and Lyft at your finger, no reason to drive drunk. Just dumb. But Michigan grad, so he was dumb.
Totally agree. Jeremy Moreland, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you. And thank you for being an ultra member as well. I hope you're good, my friend. Curious, when is the best time to peak puberty-wise for big-time football? And you made a great point about peaking in high school. I don't, the funny thing is, I don't think you really have a choice, but I mean, I was a late bloomer, obviously. I didn't even play football until I was in 8th grade. In 8th grade, I didn't even start. I was a bench guy. So I was learning the game. I didn't know anything about football. So I was a very late bloomer, which hurt me in recruiting, which was fine. I mean, I didn't care. As long as I got a chip at the table, I was good to go. Chip in a chair. I don't know. I think that obviously, by your like sophomore, junior year, I mean, you better be cranking along pretty good. But it depends on your position, honestly. Like I think like for linemen, there's so much forecasting you have to do on kids. There's so much conversions where you change tight ends into tackles and defensive tackles into guards and defensive ends into tackles and kind of all the like linebackers into tight ends like Cade Stover did. I think that, obviously you want to, by sophomore, junior, you want to kind of have an idea where you're going, but it doesn't hurt to have some upside and be a little bit raw going into your junior year in terms of growth. Because I grew a lot. I got a lot stronger, a lot bigger, got a lot more coordinated. A lot of it was because I put in a ton of work. It wasn't just I magically rolled off the couch and got strong and quick and twitched up. It was because of I had a great strength program in my high school at Perry with Keith Wakefield. But I think that, I saw a lot of guys, young, dominant monsters, and they never really got any better. Or they might have gotten like incrementally better, but they didn't make those big leaps like some of the guys that caught up to them. And I saw it happen in basketball, where guys were big guys when they were in 8th grade. And, I had a guy that could dunk in 8th grade, and then all of a sudden, he never got any better. And he was just a guy like going forward. So I don't know. I think that, obviously by junior year, you got to get going because in college football, the offers start going out sophomore junior year. So I think that you know, in football especially, I think by your junior year you be ticking along pretty good there, unless you're just a freak of nature. And sometimes you got to take a poke on a kid that's a freak of nature. Like again, the Philadelphia Eagles starting left tackle was a rugby player. You get these 6'9", 340-pound rugby players that have 12% body fat, and you're like, okay, well maybe we can turn this into something. Or Jason Peters, who was a 20-year player in the NFL. I don't even know if he's retired yet. He was a tight end at Oklahoma State, and he was just a big moose of a dude. And they converted him into tackle, or it might have been, I think he might have went to Arkansas. He went to one of the two, and he turned into one of the best tackles in history. But he was a late bloomer. So sometimes there's projections. Like the Bengals one year took Stacey Andrews, and I played with Stacey, and he was like a fringe Olympic level shot putter. And he played like 40 snaps in his entire career for Ole Miss as a backup offensive lineman. But he tested out a pro day like he was the best lineman in the entire draft from his measurables. So you take a kid like that, you coach him up, and he actually got a huge deal with the Eagles because this is kind of the projecting you have to do. So I don't know if there's a true best time to peak, but again, it's something you always have to kind of be aware of. And again, like I said, you guys have all been around youth sports, travel sports. You guys can think back to high school about people that were superstars in track and field in 7th and 8th grade. By the time they're seniors, they don't even make districts because they were, they hit puberty when they were 12. So all of a sudden they're the fastest guys in the school, the strongest guys in the school, and then everybody else kind of catches up. So that's my answer. Like I said, I don't know if there's a best time, but it's something you got to kind of keep in the back of your mind when guys, their growth plates are still open or they've got a lot more potential to give. Nevada, Jeremy asks, and you've been around youth sports and youth hockey and junior hockey, so you've literally had to draft 15 and 16-year-olds in junior hockey. So I'm really curious about your thought, because as a team owner, that's like got to be crazy to be drafting a 15, 16-year-old and trying to project how he's going to fill out. But Jeremy's curious, when is the best time to peak puberty-wise for big-time football? And again, you can translate this into any sport. And he said I made a great point about peaking in high school, but your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I don't know if there is a best time. Obviously, I think late bloomers, I would think would have an edge in terms of doing it because you're not maxed out. But the question really, it's a great question. It really just speaks to the challenge of projection. And in hockey, we're drafting kids at 14 and 15 years old and asking to project them on up. In football, you're a lot of times you're offering 15-year-old kids, 16-year-old kids, and you're trying to project, how are they going to be as players at 19, 21, 22 years old, and it's a challenge. You see it all the time in Little League. Little League is dominated by 12-year-old kids that won the race to puberty and are 6'1" at 12 years old, and it's a sure bet that they're not going to be any taller than 6'1" the rest of their life. But when they're 12, 6'1", that's a grown arse man, and they can dominate. So no, it's always interesting, to see kids and, like you said, to try to see them and see whether or not you feel like they've maxed out their potential. When you check in terms of what's their family history in terms of growing. When did their dad grow? When did their brothers grow? When things went on, because some families are traditionally late growers. Our whole family has been traditional late growers. I grew 6 inches between 10th grade and 11th grade. So, imagine, little Nevadabuck running around at, 5'9" or whatever it was. And then I come back over the summer and I'm 6'3", and that's a pretty significant difference. But, no, I do think it presents some challenges for people, but projection is the game. People got to be good at it. And but it is definitely one of the challenges for coaches, scouts, evaluators, and teams for sure.
Totally agree. Sean Rollins, thanks for being an ultra member. Thank you for the 10. He writes, paying it forward. Appreciate you, my friend, taking care of our veterans and our first responders. Hope Worcester is wonderful. And I wonder if you had the Koisha House. Koisha House is awesome. It's one of the best places in Worcester. So I hope you're good, brother. Thank you for being on here every night. Appreciate you as always. ZZM, what is up, brother? Thank you for being an ultra member. Thank you for the 5 as well. I know rules have changed, but are any attempts being made to better our kick and punt returns. The drop we have is unacceptable by Buckeye standards. I think that, you know, the kicking game has been kind of taken out of football with where they move the kickoffs to, the strength of the legs of the kickers who can just kick the ball out of the end zone. It's really made it kind of a nothing burger anymore. And again, I'm not going to look it up, but I can't remember the last time we ran a kickoff back. It's been a long time, it feels like. And again, you guys can correct me. I know that, the standout game for me is a Mecca, obviously, with the kick return yardage that he had in the Rose Bowl versus Utah was unbelievable. But yeah, it seems weird that it's just kind of a nothing burger. And we fair catch like every punt. I mean, we might return a handful of punts, a season now, whereas opposed to it used to be in the olden days when we had two returners back, we were bringing it back every time. And it was nice when we had the two returners back because whichever guy wasn't getting the ball was able to be basically like a lead blocker as the off returner to go, try to pick off one of the gunners to maybe give you a little bit more leeway. And again, back in the olden, in the land before time, the olden days when I played, like our two guys back there were Santonio Holmes and Ted Ginn. So that was terrifying to have those two guys back there. But yeah, I don't know. We had Jaden Ballard back there a lot last year, which I was fine with. He doesn't do much, and he's excruciating. It's excruciating watching him field punts. But I think it's something for him to do. But that's why, again, we showed you that Vernell Brown footage, and he'd be a dynamic weapon back there. I'd love for him to be back there. But Nevada, what are your thoughts? ZCM says he knows that the rules have changed. Any attempts are being made to better our kick and punt returns. The drought we have is unacceptable by Buckeye standards. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, the punt returns and kickoff returns are a victim of one thing: analytics. The analytics dictate that you have a higher net expected value from fair catching on punts and from fair catching on kickoff returns, given that you get a return out to the 25 on kickoffs and on punts. Look, there's just not enough time for them to, there's a finite amount of time that they have to practice things, and they've just found it's highest and best use of the time. In their opinion, is just a fair catch. Have somebody that's sure-handed back there. Don't risk the turnover. Take the kickoff at the 25-yard line, and don't spend a lot of time in terms of doing it or a lot of brain power thinking about it. If I were there, I wouldn't do that. I would try to break it open. I would try to find, for the kickoff's a little tough because it's a little bit out of your control. If they kick it out of the back, but on punts, you can get a lot of punts if you're willing to put two returners back there. And I know Ohio State watches every one of our podcasts, so I'm going to, continue my plea. I've said this many, many times before. Please put two guys back there. There's no downside to putting two guys back there. There's just none. You can catch those rugby-style line drive punts a lot easier, those end-over-end ones that just kind of roll forever. Stop that. As you mentioned, you've got a lead blocker back there on the higher punts. And if you catch one of those rugby punts with one of your two guys back there, that's a returnable one because those things are low. Those aren't sky kicks. Those are going out there, end over end. They're designed to hit and skip forward in terms of doing it. You catch one of those, you can really turn the field over. Please put two guys back. That's Nevadabuck's plea for the day.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think something that's really changed kicking and punting is the fact that you look at the the spread punt is something that changed everything with the rugby kicking, and Urban was really big on sky kicks, like for punts where you kick it literally. You want the hang time to be really, really high, and then you take your two guys that run 4-2, put them both at gunners, and you have them run down there and scream everything under the sun at the kick return to try to force a fumble. But in general, when you do it like that, when there's when the guy's catching the ball, there's already two guys like kind of cupping him, like a cup. Like that's how they teach it. They want the long snapper and they want the two gunners to kind of cup the guy, and so he doesn't really have anywhere to go. So that's why you see so many more fair catches, because between the rugby kicking and the way that the sky kick has been kind of perfected in college football, it really it takes away a lot of the return opportunities that were a lot more prolific during the old the old NFL type, like the NFL, they still do the regular punt, like the traditional drop back, take a step, kick the ball, whatever. So you see a lot more returns in the league than you do in college. But I agree. I miss the days of it being exciting to watch a punt return. Larry Daniels, one, thank you for being an ultra member. Thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my man. Any sight of Connor Stalions snuck in the back door of the Chargers, or is he headed to the glue factory? I haven't seen anything since the championship game where, all the Michigan fans are buying them beers and doing whatever. But, it, I can't imagine he has any future in football just because of what he did and how he's got kind of that permanent black eye. But, the Michigan fans don't care. I mean, they're soulless, but we knew that. So I'm sure that they'll take care of him in some way. But I haven't heard a peep from him. He's never given an interview. Like, he didn't cooperate with the NCAA. So again, I think that kills Michigan, and that's when people, when people are saying they're not going to be punished and they're going to skate. I'm like, when everybody gives the middle finger to, the NCAA during this investigation, like, they don't like that. It's no different than like if you're being interviewed by the federal government, the feds on some, racketeering, mafia case or something, and you give them the middle finger and you don't cooperate. That's why you see all these guys that are tough as nails sing like canaries and flip because, if they flip and they talk and they cooperate, then they don't have to go to jail for 600 years. But if they just, take the bit, then all of a sudden they get smacked really hard, smacked so hard that people don't want to commit crime anymore. And I think with Connor and Jim Harbaugh and all these guys saying, oh, I'm not cooperating. Oh, I'm not talking. Like, I think that dooms Michigan. I really do. I mean, I think NCAA's got a chance to smack them pretty hard. I think they're going to smack them hard because, again, the best thing they could have done is cooperated. Again, we looked at the case recently where the university was totally cooperative with everything that was going on, and the University of Oklahoma compliance director said they were, very cooperative with the entire operation, and they still got smashed. They still got show causes, kind of the whole 9 yards, but Michigan didn't cooperate at all. They literally gave the middle finger to the NCAA. So I haven't heard from Connor, but I'm sure he's not going to be walking around Michigan after all this is done because the amount of damage he did was cataclysmic. But again, the blood's on Jim Harbaugh's hands because he knew what was going on. Same with those coordinators. And the guy who's got to pay the penance the most is Sharon Moore because he's still a college coach. The other guys that skated the NFL, it'll be interesting to see what Roger Goodell does to those guys. Nevada, have you heard anything on the whereabouts of Connor Stalions?
No, but look, I think he's going to be a Michigan celebrity forever. He'll be like Bobby from Taxi or something like that. At like the Michigan conventions, we'll have like the Connor Stalions booth, and he'll be in there, and they'll all run up and hug him and take pictures with him and thank him because for them, this was all worth it. Turning it around against, I mean, we had beat them like 17 years in a row or whatever it was, and they were able to turn it around by cheating. And he was the mastermind of the cheating plot. So I think he'll have some job for some Michigan alumni. He'll always be a little pseudo celebrity, like Cato Caitlin or some of these other infamous guys that are out there in terms of doing their thing. But yeah, he'll never have another serious job having to do with sports, and that's that's going to be the penance that he has to serve the rest of his life. And but hey, for him, I don't think he cares. He's a Michigan guy. Those guys don't care.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to give him a ring too. So it just kind of is what it is at this point, and he'll never be heard from again. Happy 2014. Thank you for the 20. Appreciate it, Kirk. Are you currently over, under, or at your playing weight? I'm right about it, a little bit under actually. So your boy is going to start shredding some of that down. But yeah, about the same. I don't lift as much. I do Stairmaster every day. It's kind of my go-to for about an hour each day. That's why you guys make fun of me when I'm drinking like 3 liters of water on the show. It's usually because I just got off Stairmaster, hit a shower, and then I'm on here. Exactly. I know. Ken makes fun of me, but it is what it is. Like it is not. It is not. Yeah, it's not. It's not for the faint of heart. But it keeps the ticker strong. The labs are good. So hey, it is what it is. Again, I always got to get I got my little routine where I try to get a little cardio in before I get on here, so I'm ready to rock, and then I can relax and watch some sports. Well, Nevada, we can wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts as we wrap the show?
No, just busy day. I mean, busy day. Lots of stuff going on. We're on the verge of some commitments. I think that they could be happening at any time, and that's exciting. But just appreciate everybody so much. If you could do us one more favor while you're here, give us a like, hit that little thumbs up button. It really helps out. And, if you're one of our great listeners on Facebook Live or on Twitter Live, come on over to YouTube Live, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. Really helps other people, really helps us out as well. So we just appreciate everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys enjoyed your show. Again, you guys saw our opener. Twin Peaks and Buffalo Wild Wings are two huge sponsors of us, so make sure you take care of them, patronize them. If you guys gonna go watch a game, go watch it there. Food's great. The drinks, cocktails are great. Great food menu for kids, all adults, all ages. So check them out. Awesome places. Big Scoop sponsors. So take care of them. Appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys always tuning in each and every night. The show is huge because you guys make it huge, and we appreciate you guys always being a big part of it. The chat is lit. Thank you to Devin, Akeem, Kim, and Doreen for being our moderators each and every night, our Wrench brothers and sisters. Thank you guys for all you do. Thank you to all of our Ultra members as well. We will be doing an Ultra chat within the week, so we'll turn that on, and you guys can get your free questions in. So as always, I appreciate you guys so much for all that you guys do. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. As always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Go Bucks.